Okay, so here we are in 3D Studio Max. What you can see here is just the standard interface that you'll get when you first load 3D Studio Max. And when you first load it, you may be faced with an option between using classic mode or design mode. So just click the classic mode for now, unless you're familiar with the software and you know what design has to offer. So we're starting out. So what you can see here with the interface is you can see, first of all, that you have 4 windows here in front of you. Okay, these 4 windows, these are called your viewports. All right, so you've got one for your perspective view, you've got a front view, a top view, left view. If you want to change these, you can just click where it actually says the view name, and you can see you've got some options to change the view if you want to. All right, so these 3 here at the moment are kind of 2-dimensional views from one side. Or the top or the bottom, wherever it is. And here you've got your perspective view. This is where we're going to be sort of moving around within the 3D space. Okay, so that's what we're going to be using first of all. So if you come down here to the bottom right, you can see you've got an option to maximize the viewport. So if I click that, this view is now the full screen. Okay. On the left-hand side, you've got, this will be where you'll see a list of all the objects in your scene. And on the right-hand side, you've got all of your tools at the moment where we can add these things which are known as standard primitives. All right, this is where most models will start from one of these standard primitives. Across the top, you've got all your other tools up here. We'll come and cover some of those in a minute. So first of all, we'll just kind of get used to moving around within the 3D space, because that can take some time to get used to. So you'll find that if you just click and drag, all you're going to be doing is marquee selecting. All right, so you're not moving around. So if you want to pan around the screen, you have to click the scroll wheel. And you see there, the mouse will change to a hand, and you can pan around. All right, you can also scroll the scroll wheel to zoom in and out, as you do on most things. Okay, so that's how you can sort of move around side to side, up and down, and scroll in and out. But we've got a 3D space here, so we want to move around within the 3D space. To do so, if you hold down the Alt key and the mouse wheel, you see you can pan around inside that 3D space. Okay, you can also use the wheel up here if you want to, but I find that holding the Alt key it's easier for me, but you might prefer using the wheel. That's up to you. You'll have to play around with it to get a feel for what you like. So what we're going to do now, if you ever get like really lost, you can just click this button here, zoom extends all selected, and it'll just reset again. All right, so on the right hand side here, we've got some standard primitives. We're going to start with the box. So click box, and then if you just click and drag, it will select the sort of surface area of the box. Let go of your click, and then just move your mouse up and down to select the height of the box. Okay, and then click when you're happy. So I've got my box here. You'll notice if you keep clicking on other areas of the screen, you'll create more boxes. So if you want to finish the sort of creating, just right click and it will turn the selection off. Okay, so I've made 3 boxes, but just make 1 for now is fine. So I'm going to click on this middle one, and what you'll need to do, if you come over here, this is the Create tab, this is the Modify tab. So I go to the Modify tab, you can see the parameters of the shape. Okay, just a quick note, if I created a box like this, as soon as I've created it, you do actually get the parameters here as well, without having to go into Modify. So they're just the parameters, but in 2 different locations, depending on when you're accessing it. So if I were to right click that, and I want to get back into the parameters again, you need to click up here and modify. Okay, right. So what I can see here is I've got the length, width, and height of this box, and I can see it's a bit all over the place. So I want to even this out so it's a nice cube. So I'm going to go 50, 50, by 50. Okay, that's great. I'm just going to actually click and push delete to get rid of those other ones. You'll notice that the boxes that you create are all kind of different colors. A color is randomly selected when you create a standard primitive, so if you've got different colors, don't worry. What we can also see down here in the parameters is the length, width, and height segments. Okay, if I start adding more to this, let's say change them all to 3, I can't see anything different on my box. I can't see those segments. Okay, so what you need to do, if you come up to where it says default shading up here and click that, you can see you've got an option to turn on the edged faces. Okay, these other things all have different ways of changing the view, but we want to turn on edged faces. And now, all of a sudden, I can see those segments that I've put in. And if I go back again to this, you can see the effect that's having. Okay, turn them all to 3 for now. And you can kind of visualize that if I were to now sort of start moving around these shapes, these surfaces, I could change the actual overall shape of the box and start forming it into something else, which is what we'll start doing later down the line, but for now, we're just focusing on this. So that's my box. What I also want to show you up here is how you can move, rotate, and scale objects. So if I click on move, you'll notice that this thing here appears. This is called a gizmo. That's what it's referred to. And the way you're going to use that, so if I highlight over a particular axis, so you've got Y, you've got Z, you've got X, it will go yellow. So Y-axis there goes yellow when I hover over it. But if I hover over this little box, you can see it's Z and Y have gone yellow. Okay, so if I just want to move something constrained in that Y-axis, you need to make sure when you first select it that it's just that is selected. So the same with Z, it will only move up and down, and then X, it will only move back and forth that way. Okay, but if I did select both of them, it will move in both directions. Okay, which you don't always want. So be careful when you are moving and rotating and scaling things that you use the gizmo correctly. All right. Rotate, same thing. So you've got the different axes. It goes yellow when you've got it highlighted, but it just looks a little bit different. So I can rotate it as and how I would need to. Okay. And then scale, again, same kind of thing, just looks a bit different. I might want to scale it in one particular axis. Obviously, I've rotated it, so it looks a bit weird when you're starting to scale things. When you go right in the middle, when you scale something, to scale the whole thing. Okay, I just have this floating box here. All right, so have a play around with those tools to get a feel for how they work. And what I kind of would encourage you to do now is go back to your Create tab here and go through each of these and just create one into the scene. Let's go for sphere, which is next. Okay, and look at what the parameters are and just play around with them because they're going to do different things. Okay, so for example, this one's got segments which will automatically change how sort of smooth and rounded the sphere is. It's also got an option for hemisphere where, say, if I put 0.5 in there, it would chop the sphere in half if you needed just half a sphere. All right, okay, and then another example, so cone. This creation process is a bit different because it's like in 3 stages. So click and drag for the surface area, let go, move the mouse up and down for the height, click when you're happy, and then move the mouse again for like the point of the cone. All right. So yeah, go through and create all of those and see what they look like and what different parameters are because you're going to be using them quite a lot. Now, on top of that, I'm actually going to put a plane in as well. A plane is like just a flat surface. Use it as like a floor. You can see this sort of initial grid that's here. If you push the G key, that will toggle that on and off. Okay, What else? Other shortcuts. So with move, rotate, and scale, the shortcuts for those are W, E, and R. Okay, so W, E, R. You're going to want to be using those all the time. You don't want to have to keep on coming up here to select what you're going to do each time, you know, going backwards and forwards. You want to use those shortcuts. It's going to make life a lot easier for you. Also, something you use all the time as well is going to be the Z key. So if I've got an object selected, if I push Z, it zooms in to that particular object. So again, the cone, push Z, zooms into it, zooms in, and then if you've got nothing selected, it zooms just out to the whole scene. All right. Where that's also useful is if I just wanted to rotate around this one object, when you actually rotate, when you've got Alt held down, you'll notice that the camera will pan around the object that is currently selected. Okay, so let's say I wanted to like get in and look at the detail to this box here, but I had this sphere here selected. When I'm panning around, I'm going to be like, oh, it's going to be really awkward to try and get in and see where I want to on the box because I'm panning around the sphere. Okay, so make sure when you're moving around the right object and you've got it selected. Okay, so all of this stuff, you know, it takes some time to kind of get used to and get a feel for it. So I would encourage you to, as I say, go through and make one of each of these. Change the parameters to see what the effect it has on the shape to make the initial shape. Use the move, rotate, and scale tool. That's it really. So, you know, again, just to kind of get a feel for how it's all working. Okay, and then we'll move on to actually creating something in the next video.